It's Whitney, bro. And in today's video, we are going to be doing a how to get ready with me, possibly help some people who maybe don't have a routine or are struggling with certain parts of their routine. If that sounds interesting to you, go ahead and keep on watching. This video is going to be a little bit of a longer video. So if that is not something you're interested in, I would go ahead and click the 2 times button right now just to save yourself from being like, oh my gosh, why is this taking so long? Because I am going to be explaining a lot of things that in my usual videos I would not be explaining. First up, we're going to be using primer. I'm going to be using the e.l.f. Power Grip Primer. I know everyone talks about how good this primer is, and I would agree. It's as close as you can get drugstore as a dupe for the Milk makeup, but it's not a dupe. Not a dupe in a sense that it'll do the same thing. So be mindful of that. With this primer, they recommend that you pat it on instead of rubbing it on or massaging it into the skin because of how it functions. It gives that grip more power when you pat it in place instead of rubbing. And I found there is truth to that. So that's the first primer. That primer needs to sit for 30 seconds, which a lot of the times people will ignore that. And in my opinion, if you want a product to perform its best, when it's telling you to do something on the packaging, do it. Listen to it because it will perform better. Second primer is the Benefit Porefessional Hydrating. Ooh. It's farting a little bit. It's getting to where there's some air in there. Oh. Anyway, and for this primer, we're just going to take a little bit and go underneath both eyes and over in the area of our crow's feet. And this isn't like a miracle primer by any means. Like, I still have creases, I still have things like that, but this primer being underneath, one, helps them be less intense than they would be without it, and then number 2, it helps for if the crease does occur, I can tap it right back out with my finger and it looks flawless. On my 2 middle fingers, and we're going right in the smile line, around the nose and around the mouth with that primer. To again help creasing be less frequent and less intense if it does happen. It's not a miracle product, and you can't expect it to be like the equivalent of getting Botox or anything like that, but it is still a very good step to help both the longevity and the overall wearability of your makeup. Okay, so now that our primer's been sitting for 30 seconds, what we're going to do is go into our foundation. I'm using the foundation called Born to Glow from NYX. This is a thinner, more radiant formula. I can make a video talking more about foundation formulas if that's something you guys have interest in. Maybe I'll make a short that kind of makes more sense. Anyway, we're taking some of that foundation and I'm going on to a domed buffing brush. This one is dense. It is from the brand Mange. Anyway, so I'm dipping into that till I can see it in the brush. And then we're going to go off to the side here and do it a little bit more so that that product can be evenly distributed throughout the brush. Going into application, we're going to be taking the domed buffer brush that we've just blended the product into, and we're just going to be stamping that onto the skin in stippling motions like this. We're just taking the brush and going up and down at a faster pace. You do what pace is comfortable for you. Obviously, if doing your makeup like this is new to you, I would say go slower so you don't accidentally do it too rough, because it's not something that there's a lot of force behind, but there are quick, rapid movements. This is the kind of motion that works especially well with the type of primer that we use, that gripping primer. And on larger areas like your forehead, I do like to do, what are these called? Circular motions. And I like to go right over the eyebrow so there's not any awkward, not the same color skin, because again, this is not my exact shade. But for the sake of this video, we're gonna make her work. I'm gonna be going into the e.l.f. Putty Color Correcting Eye Brightener. And what this is gonna do, we're just gonna take a little bit on this finger because it has the lightest amount of pressure. And you're gonna put that on the darkest areas. And just gently tap that into place. And this is essentially a color corrector, which obviously it's in the name, so that's implied, but it's a color corrector that functions in a way that someone who's a beginner can use it, because it is very, very close to your skin tone while still having those peachy tones needed to correct that darkness. That product not only is going to color correct our under eyes, but it is going to help hydrate and moisturize our under eyes as well, because it has squalane and other hydrating ingredients. Next up, we're going to apply concealer. I'm going to be using the Milani Conceal and Perfect. You can use a concealer that's 2 to 3 shades lighter than your skin tone, or you can use one a little bit closer to your skin tone. The newer you are at makeup, the more I recommend using one that closer matches your skin tone, just because that way if you don't blend it perfectly, it's not quite as obvious. I am just applying the concealer right now. We are going to do the next few steps of our makeup while allowing that to just sit. Onto bronzer, and for bronzing, you can kind of go 2 different paths. You can pick a bronzer that's a little bit closer to your skin tone for a more subtle, natural looking bronze, or you can go with a shade that is a little bit deeper for you for a more dramatic, intense bronze. It doesn't look unrealistic. I don't want you to think that, because I pointed out this is more just like your skin but better, whereas this is a more intense bronze, and I prefer more intense bronze, so that's what we're going to be using today. And I like using this Flower F03 brush. I don't know if you can even get this anymore. I've literally had this since high school, which is like 10 plus years ago, more than 10 at this point. Yeah, I think I've had this brush for like 14, 15 years. So it could be older than some of you watching this video. And then we're just going to go right into the bronzer, coat the brush, and then those same stippling motions that we used for foundation, we're going to use for bronzer. And you're going to start right at your hairline to really get that nice bronzer blend. And we're still doing those stippling motions. With bronzer, you can get to a point where you start doing sweeping motions, but I like to do sweeping motions more in the hairline. I was just doing my bronzer. I completely forgot I was supposed to be telling y'all what is going on, so sorry about that. Basically, you're taking that same brush, coated, and then you're going to find your cheekbone. I thankfully have a shadow under mine, so it makes it significantly easier to find it. But essentially, you're looking for like the midpoint of your face in the middle to lower middle of your ear, and then you're going to sweep upward from that, kind of more towards your eyeball, if that makes sense. My mirror closed itself, sorry. And then just stipple. If this down here gets messy, don't worry about it, because we're going to clean it up. And then just make sure all the edges are nice and feathered out on both sides, so that bronze just looks sun-kissed. To clean that bronzer up where it might have gotten a little out of hand further down than we meant it to, we're going to take our foundation brush and just start stippling upward. No extra product, just whatever was left on it. And just start stippling up to and even gently over that final edge, just to clean it up and really get that snatch that we want from our makeup. So over here on this side, stippling, 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 a little bit over, and now we've got that same snatch. For blush, I'm going into the Blushmallow from JCat Beauty in the shade Tutti Fluffy, which is this really pretty coral color. The techniques that I'm using will work with any color, so if this is a little too intimidating for you, get whatever blush you're comfortable with. So gonna go into that with this angled, not super dense, but denser angled brush. And with this specific formula, I do kind of like to swirl it around. And the key to this entire how to get ready with me is honestly stippling motions. I'm probably going to say it like 500 times in this video, but that's really the key to what I'm doing. We're going to go into blush, which I like to start at the furthest part back and have the color the most intense here, and feather it out down and slightly up, just to get a little bit more of an ombre. Start there and then gently feather it out. And I like to feather it down and up into that bronzer so that they blend together very nicely. And then a backward sweep along the edges to make sure that there's no harsh lines. There's only certain types of makeup and certain areas of your makeup where you really want any kind of harsh line, and the blend on your cheek is not one of them. I'm going to go ahead and do the other side off camera, and then we're going to get back to blending the concealer. Since this concealer has been setting on the face for quite a while, it's going to be nice and ready to blend with quite a bit of coverage. So we're going to use the e.l.f. powder puff to blend the concealer out. This is a hack that one of my friends taught me, and it really is a game changer when it comes to the smoothness and overall appearance of your concealer. Now that the concealer's blended, I'm going to take that same blush brush and just no extra product, but go over the edges where I might have blended concealer, just to make sure there's no harsh edges of anything or concealer where I don't want it to be. I'm going to use the Blend Bunny Forget Me Not palette, the shade A Moment right here. It is a pressed pink powder, so obviously if you don't have it, you can definitely use a different pressed powder or even a translucent pressed powder. You just want to go in with a pressed powder and get it on the brush and go right in and set that concealer in place. And this shade not only sets, but that pink really adds a brightness to your skin that is beautiful. I'm going to go over my nose a little bit with some bronzer. Okay. I didn't like how that was. My nose was picking up like white on camera. I didn't like that. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom you in because we're going to do a really quick eye look as well. For the eye look, we're going to be going in with the Milani eyeshadow primer. We're going to be using the Nabla Secret palette. We're going to go in with this shade right here, which is called Ghibli. That's how I'm pronouncing it because it's Studio Ghibli, but Ghibli. Anyway, and you're going to take a fluffy brush like this and go straight into your crease and just go back and forth. If you have hooded eyes like I do, you're going to want to lean your head back so that you can get both in the crease and slightly above it, so that when you rest your eyes, you'll still be able to see that shade. So I like to just tilt my head back a little bit and blend just a little higher. You want to make sure you're holding your brush more towards the end or the middle so that you're not putting more pressure on your eye than you need to be. And same thing this way, just try to wing it out as you're blending. So we're going into the shade Creation Crown, which is this beautiful, just golden, kind of a golden bronze shade. Just going to take that on the outer edge, not the very, very end, because we're just going to blend that out. But you're going to go ahead and just build that up on the end of the eye. Now that we have that, we're going to go into the shade I Promise on my index finger. And we're just going to take that and pull it back into this shadow. And then you're going to take your same blending brush from before, no extra product, and we're just going to blend along the top edge just so there's not really a distinct place where the shimmer begins. You see it kind of fade in and fade out. We're going to take an angled brush like this, and we're going to blend out that very first transition shade. We're going to go into the Benefit Gimme Brow. And this is a volumizing brow gel. I'm just going to stroke it through the very back part of our eyebrow. And kind of use the very end where there's more pigment to make any slight alterations or additions to the shape of the brow. And then I do just like to bring it through the whole brow, just so there's not one part that has product and one part that doesn't. Same thing on the other eyebrow. I always use, the more pigment it has on the brush, the further to the back I am when I'm using it. That's pretty much going to be it. Oh, hold on. What's this eyebrow over here doing? He said, no thanks. All right, there we go. Now that's pretty much going to be it for my eyebrows. For lips, you can really do this combination in a number of ways. I'm going to be doing it using the Wet n Wild Color Icon Multi-Stick. It's a twisty jumbo crayon thing, basically. Oops, not putting it on our chin. We don't want to do that. I'm going to go with my Dr. Pawpaw Balm and just hydrate my lips. I should have done that step sooner so this had a chance to sink in, but that's okay. For the purpose of the video, it'll be fine. So going in with that color stick, just around the edge and just following the perimeter of your lip and feathering the corners so where there's more pigment towards the inside of your mouth. And you can do this with whatever color combo you want, as long as the first step you do with the darker color of the two shades that you have. And then we're going to go into the ColourPop Lippie Stick in the shade Fab. I don't think they make this exact color anymore, but I do think they have a pretty close substitute. And this, we're just going over everywhere where we just laid down that dark color. And not only is it going to blend, but it's going to lighten it a little bit so that that is a little bit more natural of a nude lip shade. And last but not least, in this Get Ready With Me, we're going to go in with the Essence Lash Princess Mascara. And for mascara, there's multiple ways to do it. Some people just like to drag it across their lashes once, and that's good enough for them. Other people really get into it, really get their upper lash covered in mascara to get as much mascara as they want. Me personally, I find the best method is to get it as close to your under eye as you're able to, and then just blink. And this will feel really weird at first if you have not worn a whole lot of eye makeup or done a whole lot of things involving your eyes. It is going to feel really odd at first, and if you want to skip it till it gets more comfortable with you, that's totally fine. Same with any of these steps. If you want to skip it till it feels right, nobody's going to be mad at that either. I like to do a combination of blinking and moving the wand itself. I find that the two together really do make for an impactful lash. This is going to be the finished look for my How to Get Ready With Me. If you watched all the way to the end, I really hope you enjoyed it. And if there's any steps or parts of this routine that you have any questions about, definitely leave a comment below, or if you're too afraid to comment for whatever reason publicly, I do have my Instagram and my Twitter below. Feel free to DM me on there. My DMs are open. So again, thank you so much for watching my video. If you are a returning subscriber, I really do appreciate you. If you are new, I'd be so happy to have you as a subscriber, and I do also appreciate you being here. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you guys in my next one. Bye!